questions. Why do we drive the way we do? We've all learned about defensive driving, so why do we drive over the speed limit? Follow too closely? Talk on our cell phones? What are the choices we make when we drive? The conscious choices and the unconscious choices. Why do we take risks? I want to know what we get out of it. So, let's listen to some drivers talk about their driving. Find out why they drive the way they do. See if you can relate.
Oh, fabulous. Thanks. Have a great day. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Chris.
Just coffee today, or you want something to go with it?
Just coffee.
Sure you don't want a sandwich or a muffin, maybe?
No, thanks. I already ate.
Rough day?
You could say that. But I'm sure glad to be sitting here instead of explaining to my boss how I wrecked my van.
What happened?
I was on my way to my next stop and trying to read the address on the printout. Anyway, I didn't know there'd be road construction on Highway 55. I was cruising along, and suddenly I realized I was going off the road and just about crashed into one of those barricades they put up for the construction. One of those cement monsters. It would have done a lot of damage. I haven't come that close in a long time, and the worst thing is it was my own fault.
Because you weren't paying attention. We take risks. We play the odds. We think, it won't happen to me, or I won't get caught. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think we should be relying on luck when we drive.
Hi, Nicole.
Sounds like you had a close one.
Yeah, you'd think they'd ask me before they'd start working on a road I use.
It's not the road work, my friend. It's you. You weren't paying attention. When we let our minds wander, thinking about making our next stop, making our next car payment, whatever, that's when the trouble can happen.
With traffic the way it is these days, I am really glad I don't drive for a living like you two.
I don't drive for a living. Over-the-road truckers, they drive for a living. I work for a computer company. I bet she doesn't drive for a living either. Nicole, isn't it? What's your job?
I deliver baked goods to restaurants.
I don't know. It seems like driving is a big part of your job for both of you. How much do you drive each day?
I have a regular route. I'd say I'm behind the wheel almost half the day.
That's a lot. And you?
It depends. I go different places every day. Sometimes I don't drive all that much. Other days, it seems like I'm always in my van. I can have customers on opposite sides of town, so it changes from day to day.
So let me get this straight. Driving is a big part of the job for both of you, and yet you say you're not professional drivers. That isn't what it sounds like to me. So what kind of training do you get when you start your new job? For the driving, I mean.
Our safety training covers all the basic. Most of it is stuff we do as a matter of habit. You know, wear a seatbelt, use your signal, those kinds of things. But there are other considerations. Deadlines to meet, customers to keep happy. Time is money. When we're driving, we're not servicing customers. The more customers I service, the better my boss likes it.
And that's why we take the risks. To get the rewards. We think that if we speed a little, run yellow lights, drive while we read printouts and talk on the cell phone, we'll make more sales, more service calls, and maybe more pay. After a while, it becomes a habit, especially if we do get to more customers and make more pay, and we don't get caught or have an accident.
And people like Nicole, they get to go home after they finish their route. That's a pretty strong incentive for finishing up as soon as you can.
Which gets tough when they keep adding more stops to my route.
Well, there's another reward for taking risks. We think we can reduce work time so we'll have more personal time.
Don't get me wrong, I try not to do anything dangerous when I'm driving, but once in a while I have cut a few corners.
I can see what you mean.
Like today. I finished up a job that took a lot longer than I expected, so I was in a hurry to get to my next stop. That's why I was reading the printout as I was driving. Anything to make up a little time.
Like I said, we take the risks to get the rewards. We play the odds.
You know, sometimes there's so much pressure to make as many stops as you can
Or to move as much product as you can.
that sometimes safety gets, sort of ignored.
A lot of unsafe driving comes from things we ignore, things we don't do. The biggest thing? when we don't pay attention, when we don't focus completely on our driving.
But you can't deliver product or make stops if you have an accident.
Right. Hey, have you seen what's going on Highway 55?
I haven't seen it, but I read about it. I try and keep up with what's happening with road construction. I always read the newspaper and I listen to the radio. Then I can avoid those areas. Nothing is more frustrating than wasting time in traffic when I'm trying to drive my route. Like when there's a day game at the ballpark, I avoid 369. I missed my kid's first soccer game because of that once. Trust me, you do not want an 8-year-old girl mad at you.
Anticipating is a part of every job.
Yeah, maybe that's another reason some of us play the odds. We want people to think we're risk takers and rule breakers. Maybe it's the cool factor.
I have a regular route. I've done it so much I could do it in my sleep, which isn't exactly a good thing. All those training meetings tell you to stay alert. But when you're driving a route for the 2000th time, it's easy to get complacent. Sometimes I take a different street just for a change of scenery.
I don't really have that boredom factor. I go different places every day, but I have plenty to distract me. I get calls on my cell, calls about work. What am I supposed to do? Ignore them? It's how I keep in touch with the office and my customers.
Complacency? Distractions? Those are some of the risks we often take unconsciously, without thinking. Like following too closely, or going too fast. Phone rings, we answer, but it's distracting! It takes our attention. It takes our focus from our driving.
And on really busy days, eating on the road is the only chance I get to eat.
Speaking of busy days, I gotta run. See you Tuesday.
That multitasking thing can really get you into trouble. I mean, I can clean up and keep an eye on my customers, but some of the things you see on the road these days is ridiculous. I can see where the driving part of your job might be difficult. I mean, the company wants you to be safe, but they also expect you to get the job done. Oh, hi. Been expecting this.
Just sign here.
Sometimes getting the job done on time is at odds with what we learn about safety. In that case, which comes first? Safety or getting the job done?
That's easy. Safety.
Well, that's easy to say.
It sounds good, but in the real world, it doesn't always work that way.
I just finished a course on safety. It made me think a little bit differently about the driving part of my job. I realized I know all the things I need to drive safely. The only things that stop me from doing it are me, the decisions I make. So I thought about why I drive the way I do, and I made some changes. I'm trying to be more professional about it. How? The way I think about it, there's two parts to my job. Some of the time, my job is to service the customers, but when I'm on the road, I'm a professional driver. I make a point of changing when I get in the car. I'm not turning into Batman or anything like that. I just try to have a different mindset. I mean, you and I are pros, but there are a lot of amateurs out there. Most importantly, I drive defensively. No speeding or pushing through yellow lights. No Russian roulette, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I know what you mean. A lot of risky driving comes from things we do, like speeding or merging when we should have waited. And a lot of those unsafe actions we take consciously. We think about them, and faster than you can say, I can make this light, we step on the gas.
Okay, you're doing everything right, but isn't it taking you longer to make your delivery?
No, not really. A couple minutes here or there really aren't worth my safety, or all the time it would take for a fender bender, much less a serious crash. Planning my routes and being efficient will save me more time than taking chances on the road.
I'll have to think about that one. You could be right, though. It always seems like I should be saving more time than I actually do.
Another thing I did was I changed the medication I was using for my allergies. I mean, feeling drowsy and tired isn't a good idea when you drive as much as I do. Try to get enough sleep and generally take care of myself.
Tell me about it. I got to get up at 5 a.m. for this job. If I don't get enough sleep, I'm toast. Serving toast.
You're right, though. On days I start early, I have to make sure I'm wide awake before I start driving.
Same goes for the end of the day, when your driving skills tend to fall off. You know, you're tired, you're thinking about what you're going to do after your shift. That's when a lot of accidents happen. Well, I got to go. Duty calls. See you later.
See ya.
Whatever they said in his safety training really got to that guy. Gives you something to think about.
Think about it. We do drive for a living. Some of us take risks when we drive because we think we have to, because we think there are rewards, a payoff for moving faster, cutting corners. Our unsafe driving is because of things we do and things we don't do. And some of those risks we take consciously and some unconsciously. It's all about the decisions we make. So you're a professional driver. Why do you drive the way you do?